Krishnan, Managing Director, Saint Gobain India Private Limited. May we also request Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, retired VSN, Executive Director of the Madras Management Association, along with Ms. Akhila Srinivasan, Managing Director, Sri Ram Life Insurance Company, and Dr. R. Gopalakrishnan, Principal, KSR College of Technology. May we also request Mr. Raghuveer Srinivasan, Editor, The Hindu Business Line, CA V Pattabhi Ram, author, public speaker, and teacher onto the dais, and Dr. Anbuthambi Bhojarajan, author, Head, Strategy and Partnerships, L&T Edutech. The dais is all set and perfectly decorated with abundance of intellect and positive energy to kickstart the Vision 2047. There could be no better occasion for the Executive Director of Madras Management Association to welcome this August gathering than this great event, visualizing above the mark performance of our amazing nation. May we now request Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, retired VSN, Executive Director, Madras Management Association, to formally welcome the gathering.
Thank you, Madam. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a proud privilege for me to deliver the formal welcome address. Before that, let me share the good news most of you may or may not know. I think at last India has won against Bangladesh after putting all this series. So the book launch has been lucky today and lucky event, that's why to follow a winning streak. It's my proud privilege to invite and welcome our distinguished chief guest. She is not new to MMA. She's been the chief guest of MMA Women Convention. It's indeed a privilege to have you with us this evening, Madam, and Honorable Justice Dr. Anita Sumant is from Madras High Court. Very warm welcome to you, Madam. We also have a very galaxy of eminent speakers this evening. Most of them are known to MMA members. Let me have the formally welcome Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan from Cognizant. Akhila Srinivasan, again, warm welcome to you, Madam. It's a pleasure to have you with us. She is Sri Ram Life Insurance Company. And Mr. Krishnan, Managing Director of Saint Gobain, and he is also member of the MMA Managing Committee. So it's a double delight to have him with us this evening. And Raghuveer Srinivasan, again, is a very well-wisher of MMA. He is the Hindu Business Line Editor. And the most sought-after person for this evening, Pattabhi Ram, is the author of the book. And also Anbuthambi, again, the co-author of the book. And Dr. Gopalakrishnan is from Dr. K.S. Rangasamy College of Technology. So we are going to have a very beautiful evening, free-flowing conversation on the theme and India 2047. Since the time Mr. Modi made a statement, by 2047 we should be a developed country. So much of discussions happening on that, and where the dollar earning of us to be from $2,700 to it should be $12,400, and so many things are happening. We read so many things, and we really think, do we reach there? But the book, I don't know whether Mr. Pattabhi has planned it nicely as accidental. It's been one of the fantastic topics what you choose the right time. And this is what people are really expecting to do that. And I also take this opportunity to welcome the authors of the book along with him, the contributors and mentors, because they've done a phenomenal work. Each of the contributors and mentors who are here this evening. It's a privilege to have you with us because I think you made this book really very interesting. And I see the pictures, what has been displayed outside. So inspiring to see each one of you have contributed so much for the thing. And let me also welcome warmly all the invitees from Read and Write Production, our special invitees, members of the MMA, members of the MMA Managing Committee, all the viewers who are watching this program live on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, webinar. Please, if you have any, as usual, any questions, please share your questions to the numbers which is flashed on your screen. We'll be delighted to place it before the distinguished panelists today to respond to all your questions. Then we also have so many invitees. Let me briefly tell a minute more to take about MMA. Some of you have come maybe for the first time. MMA is established about 66 years back, and we have about 8,000 members. We do about 650 to 700 events in a year, and we have chapters at 10 different locations. We are recognized for our work, what we have been doing to propagate the management in 2047. Thanks so much, and it's indeed my proud privilege. Sit back and enjoy. Once again, very warm welcome to each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You played a perfect opening batsman of this visionary evening. Growth of Mother India, journey filled with positivities. yet considering the reality path of our nation. To embark a journey of a developing nation in its 27 thematic development areas, visualizing a holistic picture, getting the best minds together is not a task. May we now request CA V Pattabhi Ram, author, public speaker and teacher, to share his experience on making of the book, not just a book, but a roadmap to success.
Well, good evening to all of you. It's lovely being here this evening at the Madras Management Association for the release of India in 2047. This event this evening is a major pit spot in a journey that we began some 9 months ago. Sometime in the end of January, Dr. Anbuthambi and I thought that we must get India under 40 to write about India in 100 or India in 2047. That's largely because we wanted the world to know, to understand and appreciate what is it that the millennials, what is the kind of country the millennials want their children and their grandchildren to live in. The process began the very following month when we ran a nationwide contest in which about 175 people participated. We picked up about 25-30 of them, and we had a first draft. Then they went through a writing workshop by one of India's leading business writers. And over the next few months, between them and us, we had a rewrite of the multiple chapters so that today it reads a holistic book. I must tell you that it's been amazing because these people, all these proud contributors, come from different parts of India. Some of them even come from abroad. 3 of them are from abroad. They were all mentored by 26 different thought leaders in the field. And personally, I thought it was an amazing experience because none of them, and I'm not exaggerating, none of these 32 plus the 26 have physically met each other. All of the process was carried out online, and in fact, personally, barring 3-4 of them whom I knew earlier, we haven't met. I think this is how India in 2047 is going to work, and I'm extremely thankful to all of you, to the contributors, to the mentors, and the panelists who have turned up here to make this evening outstanding. I want you to spend a few minutes watching this audio visual, which will talk about what the book has. Thank you very much.
How will the children and grandchildren of the millennials lead their lives? How do we want India transform in the next 25 years in the run-up to 2047, its 100th year post-independence? Yes, our history dates to 5000 BC with the Indus Valley, along with Egypt and Mesopotamia, being among the oldest civilizations. Yes, we gave the world Susruta, medicine, Aryabhatta, mathematics, Chanakya, the master politician, Jagdish Bose, science, Mahatma Gandhi, apostle of peace, M.S. Swaminathan, Green Revolution, Varghese Kurian, White Revolution, Sam Manekshaw, hero of 1971, J.R.D. Tata, industrialist, to name a few. Yes, today India produces CEOs for the world, and yes, are a major talent hub. But what about the next 25 years? From 75 to 100, 1947, we won our political independence. 1991, we won our economic independence. 2022, we are the 5th largest economy. In the past 75 years, India has moved from the depths of poverty to the heights of plenty and amazing growth for an argumentative democracy. But what about the future? What will we be like in 2047? India in 2047. The amazing rise of a modern nation envisions our future. Lays out a wish list. 25 plus young Indians, mentored by 25 plus veterans. Look at 25 plus happening areas as it would blossom the next 25 years. From agriculture to artificial intelligence, from banking to big data, from defense to democracy, from education to entertainment, from home to healthcare, the range is overarching. Who best to guide than the veterans who have themselves been change makers? To read Young India's View of the Future, pick your book www.amazon.in. At an average age of 35, our writers are an eclectic mix of young and experienced, working as bankers, CAs, corporate executives, doctors, engineers, journalists, teachers, and entrepreneurs, to name a few. They come pan-India, Bangalore, Chennai, Kochi, Kolkata, Pune, Mumbai and Hyderabad, and from across the world, Canada, Singapore, USA, with voices of the makers of New India. Dr. Devi Shetty writes the foreword. Sridhar Vembu writes the first word. Conceived, scripted and helmed by CA V Pattabhi Ram and Dr. B. Anbuthambi. One thing is for sure. The following 25 years are going to be a game changer. It will be both exciting and challenging and will be led by automation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud, machine learning and big data. From Read Write Productions, a prime 5C brand, an incubate of AGBI, Atal Great Lake Bala Balachandran Incubator. Voiceover, Harish Sahas.
Journey.
Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We move on to the much awaited book release. Moving on to the prestigious launch of Vision India 2047, may we now request our Honorable Chief Guest to release the book and hand over a copy each to Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan and Mr. A.R. Unnikrishnan. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. May we kindly request Mr. Senior Vice President. Super high. Thank you all. May we now request Honorable Dr. Justice Anita Subant, our Chief Guest of the evening, to address the gathering.
Set purposes, and as a result that thanks to the weather I was unable to make the transition here. I was just thinking that this will definitely be rectified by 2047. Good evening to all the distinguished guests here, both on and off the days. It was a real pleasure to read India in 2047, and my kudos to the authors Sri Pattabhi Ram and Sri Anbuthambi, and the 25 strong team of contributors who have compiled their dreams into this book. My reading of the book spanned the hours post 10 p.m. and the book being what it is, a combination of a wish list and a bucket list, and the time of day when I read it, most mornings when I woke up, I was left wondering whether what I remembered of the reading spanned from my own dreams or whether it is the content of the book itself. Left to me, I would have named the Book of Dreams. But Google tells me that there are 3 publications already with that name. So there you go. When the Madras High Court completed 150 years, there was a publication brought out called A Century Completed on 26th of June, 1962, authored by Sri V.C. Gopal Ratnam, a doyen of the bar at that time. And the book had chronicled the journey of the institution of the High Court over the years. And it spoke about the institution as it was after the completion of 150 years. This book that we released just now stands on a different platform. This is for the reason that we are 25 years shy of a century, and the authors have thus dared to dream, and rightly so. It gives us a quarter of a century to transition all those dreams into reality. And that's what makes this publication very unique and very different. Many of the thoughts, aspirations, ideas, expectations that are set out in this book, I must say they are not unique in the sense that most of us at some point in time would have thought the same, would have wished for the same, would have aspired for the same. Now, I'm not going to be referring to the content in detail because the very erudite panel will be doing that in the discussion to follow. What struck me as I read the book was that this is a repository, what we in the legal fraternity called a ready reckoner of dreams. And this is a ready reckoner that we should all be dipping into, identifying those dreams that align with our sensibilities, gathering our resources, and making sure that they don't remain just on paper, but that we make them a reality. I would like at this time to share a small anecdote with you. I'm sure that many of you in the audience would be familiar with it. It has its genesis in a couplet in the Upanishads. The couplet itself has been elaborated in great detail in the Panchadasi, in the 7th chapter of the Panchadasi by Vedaranya. The story goes like this. 10 men were on a journey. Along their travels, they encountered a river. And once they crossed to the banks of the other side, they decided to take a head count to ensure that all in the group had gone to the other side. So the first man counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then he says, "Oh my God, one of us is missing." And each one of them, they say, "Don't panic, we'll all count." And each one of them counts and comes to the same conclusion. I see a lot of smiles, which means that you are familiar with the story. I'll come shortly to the relevance of that story for today's event. So while they were all in a state of panic, a wise man comes along and says, "What's the problem?" And they say, "Look, one of us, we were 10 to begin with, and now one of us has gone to the river." So he takes a quick count and says, "No, there are 10 people here." And he says, "All right, let's do a count again." They say, "No, we have all done it, and there are only 9. So he says, "Trust me, let's take a head count again." And then they count based on what he says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they say, "See, we told you there are only 9. He turns the hand of the person counting and says, "10. Thou art the 10th man." Now, this is Vedantic thought. This is Advaitic thought. And what is the relevance of this here? Incidentally, from my limited reading, I do find that this is a philosophy that is espoused by all Indic religions, all Indic faiths, and some Abrahamic faiths as well. And the relevance of this here is this. The authors have in the about 350 to 360 pages of the pre-release copy that they have given me, touched on various areas of the economy that call for development, from technology to infrastructure, from education to agriculture, from fitness to employment, name it. I'm not just rattling off the chapter heads. I have made a bona fide attempt to read it, though I must confess that I speed read it, and I do look forward to doing a more thorough job soon. The point I'm trying to make is that they have outlined development in all areas, which, if it happens, will lead to an ideal nation. But that would not suffice, because there is one overriding feature that is necessary if this is going to happen. One feature that is necessary to catalyze and enable all those dreams. And that feature is us, or the individual. Tvam. Without that, this will remain a beautifully published volume. That individual or that self must be one who is of unshakable integrity, one who is full of empathy, of fairness, conforming to a set of superior values and principles. And the development of our citizenry to answer to such a description is, in my humble view, the key to the success of the dreams that are in this book. You might say, how are we to achieve the practical dreams that are necessary? Dreams of technology, dreams of profession, dreams in various other spheres of the economy. Will we not be shortchanging those dreams if we are to concentrate on the development of the self? But no, it is the development of the self that is going to be critical to ensure that the other dreams happen or take place. Let me speak from experience. The authors have in this book touched very briefly on the Indian Penal Code somewhere. They have made reference to the POSH somewhere, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment in the Workplace Act. They have not touched on the institution of justice delivery. In my view, that is one of the elements which is critical to development and maintenance of society at an optimum level. I was elevated after practice of about 22, 23 years, and I looked at elevation or judicial service as a service. With that elevation, my focus became more broad-based, and one tends to look at the ills that plague the system, systemic faults. What can we do to redress them? And two of those would be the docket explosion and the inexplicable pendency of matters that we have today. I don't want to burden you with statistics, though I did ask for some. The volume of cases, suffice it to say that the volume of cases that are pending before the courts today are mind-boggling, not that you don't know that. And one of the remedies, one of the very effective remedies that one looks at today as a countermeasure to that is alternate methods of dispute resolution, particularly mediation. You know that there is a mediation bill on the anvil, and this is key to ensuring that disputes are resolved in an amicable fashion. But as a concept, how do we sell mediation to society today? Why do I ask this question? Because we as a society look at litigation as a means to win. Fully, absolutely, unconditionally, without compromise. And that is the antithesis or opposite of what mediation requires. Mediation is an effort which requires the litigating parties or the parties in conflict to be able to sit across the table with a neutral negotiator and work out a remedy which at the end of the day would satisfy all of them, not just one of them. Therefore, this is the relevance of the Vedantic story to say that unless each individual rises to the occasion, I have only talked about one area, which is justice delivery, which is something that I am familiar with. But this, in my view, is one aspect which must permeate through all aspects of the economy to ensure that there is an overall development and we maintain that overall development optimally. Well, I think I might have exceeded time, so I'll conclude by saying, someone said, so many of our dreams at first seem impossible, then they seem improbable, and then when we summon the will, they become inevitable. Let us summon that will. The authors have referred to India and Bharat in this book. If we summon that will, India and Bharat will converge into one unified, invincible, indivisible force. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not long in the coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a wonderful address. In the process of getting there, the beautiful Vision 2047, cleaning up the cancers which stagnate the development is very important, and justice, quick and right, is definitely the key. Dare to dream and gathering the wish list, putting into focus, dream together, so our dreams translate into action. You beautifully tagged the story from Panchadasi to hit the message hard that take responsibility. There couldn't have been a better message for the day. Dreaming is important, but more important is that focus and effect of action. Thank you so very much, ma'am. May we now request CA V Pattabhi, past President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, to present a memento to our Honorable Chief Guest. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause. May we now request Sri Mafai Bhojarajan to present a memento to Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. May we also request him to present a memento to Mr. A.R. Unnikrishnan. Thank you, dignitaries on the dais. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural and the book release. We shall now move on to the most awaited panel discussion. As the dais is reset for the panel discussion, let's get set for the mind-storming panel discussion on the theme, India in 2047, the amazing rise of a modern nation. Not an easy topic to discuss on. This discussion involves intelligence, emotion, and patriotism. So we have our panelists, Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, co-founder and emeritus vice chairman, Cognizant, Ms. Akila Srinivasan, managing director, Shriram Life Insurance Company, Mr. A.R. Unnikrishnan, managing director, Saint Gobain India Private Limited, and Dr. R. Gopalakrishnan, principal, KSR College of Technology, as the panelists, and Mr. Raghavi Srinivasan, editor, The Hindu Business Line, has taken the Herculean task to moderate the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Feels good to be here again at the MMA. I think I'm here on the dais at least 4 or 5 times a year. I think Group Captain Vijay Kumar should look for someone else going forward, just lest I become too familiar here. But it's nice to be here in this distinguished panel, and I look forward to very entertaining evening with lively thoughts from each one of the distinguished panelists. I see a lot of illustrious faces in the audience as well, including some from my accounting fraternity, some who count as my guru, Mr. Bhupati, Mr. Ravi Shankar from Brahmayan Company. So a whole lot of people here. So it's nice to be in this gathering, intellectually stimulating gathering. If you had to talk about the 25 years from now or 100 years from independence, what is 100 years in the life of a nation? It's but a small blip. So it's nevertheless, it's a round number on which we can take stock of a country's progress, of a nation's development. If you look at, before looking at 22 to 47, I would like to look back from 47 to 22. If you separate it into three quadrants, 47 to 72, 72 to 97, and 97 to 22, quarter one, the first 25 years, second and the third. I'm part of the lost generation according to this book. The book has categorized people born between 47 and now into different generations. And I happen to be in the category called the lost generation, which is born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? So if I were to tell my father, if I were to ask my grandfather rather, would he have imagined that one day there'll be man on the moon? Or you could fly from London to Delhi, have breakfast in London and reach Delhi for supper. It would have been astounding to him. He would have thought, I was off my mind. But that's exactly what we saw in the first 25 years. We put man on the moon and we had space. We explored the outer reaches of space. We, invented the jet engine, which could fly across the world in hours, which could ferry people. The next 25 years, 72 to 97, that is kind of a very remarkable period, which I think set the stage for what we are going to see now and what we have already seen in the last few years. The advent of the computer. Of course, the computer was first developed much earlier, but it was put into a mass use, a commercial use in this 72 to 97 period, when it really transformed people's lives, transformed the economies, and it kind of led the development of that 2.5 decades. 97 to 2022. Now, if you look at this period, this is to my mind the most mind-blowing period we had in the last 75 years. Who would have thought that the mobile phone would be invented and it would take over our lives? It has ushered in a revolution, a communication revolution that nobody could ever imagine. Who would have thought that software would become the driving force behind development, behind every industry, including medicine? Even that is not spared. So who would have thought of that? Who would have imagined that we will have electric vehicles, the advent of the battery storages that would threaten fossil fuel, which was the uncrowned king until then. Now, why even 25 years? Let's take 10 years. 2012, would any of us have imagined there would be something called WhatsApp that would take over our lives completely, and we would live off WhatsApp, die off WhatsApp. You've seen people dying, taking selfies from the cell phones and putting it on their WhatsApp, right? So who would have imagined this? So what I'm trying to point out here is the future is unimaginable. The kind of things that can happen, the human mind is so powerful, and it keeps coming up with newer ideas, newer experiments, newer thoughts. So 22 to 2047 is, to my mind, going to be a very exciting period because we have built up a foundation with technology as the base. Technology is driving everything, and there's nothing that can be done without a computer or a microchip these days, you know what the chaos that we have been witnessing in the last few months or maybe a couple of years, the shortage of chips. It has affected output of everything from cars to computers to consumer durables to cell phones. Now, this 25 years going forward, as the book has captured, I saw some very lively articles in the book. Of course, there is a recency bias, which is to be expected. The authors have imagined the future with the anchor of the present. But that's a human mind. We don't know what's out there. We cannot conjure up something which we don't have an experience about. Before I start the panel discussion, I only have one wish list. I don't know if it's there in the book. Pattabhi was kind enough to share the manuscript with me. I flipped through it. I didn't have the time to read the whole book. But, what we need possibly in the next 1 year itself, is an invention that can turn a motor car into a motorboat so that we can drive down our city roads without any problems, right? So let me start with Ms. Akhila Srinivasan. We have a power-packed panel. Ms. Akhila Srinivasan is going to be talking about financial services, insurance. Mr. Lakshmi Narayan, obviously about technology. Mr. Unni Krishnan will be talking about climate change, about manufacturing, about energy. And Dr. Gopalakrishnan will talk about education, skilling. So I'll first start with Ms. Akhila Srinivasan. You represent an industry which is going to be integral to development.
Yes.
There can be no development without money, right? Now, how do you see the financial services sector transforming itself to meet the challenges of the next 2 decades? When I say financial services, it's very broad. It's insurance, it's microfinance, it's banks, it's the stock markets, everything. But your expertise lies in insurance and banking. So how would you think banking and insurance will evolve? And how do you see it evolving in the next 2 decades?
Good evening, distinguished panelists and my dear friends. At the outset, I would like to commend the authors, Mr. Pattabhi Ram and Dr. Anbuthambi, for the vision that they together developed for an amazing modern India in the year 2047. Now, as Mr. Raghubir said, I come from the financial services industry, and I have about 35 years of experience both in the financial services entities as well as insurance. Now, today I would like to throw light on a very, very important aspect that can propel the growth of this country and usher in a huge, phenomenal increase in the national income, national output, and GDP growth by 2047. This can be achieved by laying focus and emphasis on the non-corporate small businesses of India. We always talk about banking. We talk about asset financing companies which are into huge financing of big assets. But the small business finances in India actually constitute 6 crore business units. 90% employment is created by this sector. And you will be surprised to know that this small business enterprise sector, which is also called the non-corporate sector or the unorganized sector, contributes 52% to the GDP of this country, whereas the so-called corporate sector, of which we are all part of, constitutes only 12% of the GDP. Now, this humongous fact has been ignored for decades. And another aspect to be taken into consideration is the employment opportunity that this sector provides. 46 crore people are employed in this sector, out of which 26 crores are self-employed. Now, when I talk about this sector, it means the micro, small units, the traders, the businessmen. You know, there is an all India body called the Confederation of All India Traders Union, and that body has got 6 crore traders as members and 20,000 associations, state-wise associations all over India. And among the 6 crore traders, 60% of them are SCs, STs and OBCs. So, this sector not only provides 90% of the employment, not only contributes 52% to the GDP, and this sector also provides value addition to the extent of 6.28 lakh crores. But mind you, only 4% of their financial needs are met by the banks. So you have banks, you have NBFCs, you have regional rural banks, you have cooperative banks. But then the way forward should be the creation of small business financing entities, which are a little different from the traditional NBFCs, which lend to all types of assets. The need of the hour will be to create a small business financing agency that will route the funds. Banks will have to route their funds to the NBFCs, who in turn will route it to regional banks, cooperative banks, and then the last mile deliverer will reach through the micro enterprises, self-help groups, etc., to the marginalized trader who needs funds at reasonable rates of interest, the way banks lend. Otherwise, they are in the hands of the money lenders. They are borrowing at 110%. You have this ice cream shop outside, you have a hardware merchant outside, you have all kinds of, fashion clothes, selling garments, development and growth by creating a new financial architecture. And South Korea and China are standing examples of having created something on these lines. And that is why the eminent columnist Mr. Gurumurthy has been talking about a rainbow model of financing, because India is such a diverse country with diverse business enterprises requiring diverse kinds of credit at very reasonable rates of interest. And unless we create, of course, for all the representation that the think tank made to the present government, they brought in Mudra. But in our humble opinion, Mudra is a scheme adopted by the banks today, which only gives loans which they were giving before. It's a reclassification of the loans that have already been given to the priority sector. Nothing new has been created.
So what do you think needs to be done to reach credit to these
we think that there must be, like when the insurance industry was opened up, the IRDA was created, and it is both a regulatory and development agency, like any government agency is. There must be more thrust on development than regulation. And so we really think that a small business financing agency in India should be created like the IRDA, which focuses on the development of finance to small traders of this country. By doing that, this sector will get a huge fillip and unimaginable growth can be achieved. Actually, the writing is clear on the wall, and what I think is that when governments are in power with huge majority and absolute majority, all that they need to do is to look into a problem as important as this in solving the credit needs of the small people. The rich get away, with getting loans and not repaying them and escaping to UK and other places. But it is the small man on the field who doesn't have access to credit. So as a financial services entity, we have had experience in dealing only with the Aam Aadmi. So my entire experience of 35 years is in providing credit requirement to the Aam Aadmi of this country through insurance, through non-banking financial services, etc. So whenever we talk of India shining, incredible India and India in 2047, my heart goes out to those millions and millions of poor people in this country who are marginalized, who villages have no access to roads, electricity, basic education, basic health care, and we all assemble and talk about plans of the urban India, where the intelligent, educated elite will have a say on matters. But what about the Indian population? India is a rural economy. India is an agrarian economy, and 50% of the Indian populace consists of women. And out of that, 48% live in rural India. And if you keep those 48% of the rural India poor for the sake of votes, and if you keep them uneducated, illiterate, then India can never grow, because 48% of the population is not participating in direct income stream creation activity of the country.
Correct.
Yeah, that is my point.
I will
So
come back
unless
to you.
these things happen, then only
Yeah.
we can think of 2047.
Yeah, thanks. I shall now move to Mr. Unikrishnan from Sangoban. I hope I got the pronunciation right, or Sengoban as we all call it here. Mr. Unikrishnan will talk about climate change, energy and manufacturing. Let me start off with climate change, Mr. Unikrishnan. As development happens, there is a constant clash and tussle between development and the environment. Very often, development takes precedence over the environment, and we've seen the price that we are paying for that. Now, as we go forward, and as India rapidly industrializes, the kind of schemes that the government is pushing for manufacturing, how do you ensure that the environment is not, it doesn't become a casualty as development happens? Because development is also important. We saw it in the case of the new Chennai airport, right? We need a big airport, but it also displaces a lot of landed people, poor people, farmers, and it's very cultivable land. How do you, draw the line between these two?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, before jumping into the climate change, allow me a minute to maybe indulge on the book and also to compliment the authors. The sci-fi movies and books have always inspired people to do disruptive innovation and also inventions. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Clipper of the Cloud, around 120 years back, inspired people to have submarines and helicopters and things being invented. And not long ago, I think many of us grew. I also belong to the lost generation. So we grew up watching the Star Trek, which it seems has really inspired Motorola to invent the mobile phones. So I'm sure this book is going to probably inspire a lot of people to have that kind of disruptive inventions and many interesting things as the country is progressing into its 100th year. But with a difference. I think when I went through the book, one difference compared to many of those fictional books, here you can see a few green shoots of some of those ideas already happening. Be it in terms of policies, be it in terms of the attitude towards it, the aptitude, you see some green shoots already. So that gives me a lot of optimism that this is not just a wishful thinking, it's not just a figment of imagination by some 25 odd people, but it's really something which we can actually do going forward. So my compliments to the authors for really doing that. I know that group captain is not here, but it's also a great opportunity. Now he has got some 30 plus ideas that MMA can work on with from the Gen Z or Alpha over the next few months in terms of what we can do on that. So it should not just remain as a book. I'm sure we should take it forward in the coming days. Coming to the climate change, I think the first and foremost thing that we need to look at is the urbanization. I think what we are going to really witness is the urbanization as far as India is concerned. We are right now at around 32%, and it is expected to become around 45% by 2030, give or take a few years. And as the authors have mentioned, maybe 70% in a few years' time. Now, the biggest catastrophe is, what many of us would have faced in reaching to MMA this evening. How do you reach? So I think the urban planning is not one of our strengths as a country. I think we need to recognize that first. And also, I'm happy that in the recent budget, small amount, maybe 1,500 crores was set aside to work on this urban planning. So it's a good step forward. I think we should take it forward. Institutions, institutions, large organizations, architects and people like that need to take up that and work on a good model on urban planning. We have many cities to be, developed. I think that, to me, is the first thing that, we must do. There are already very good codes and standards on green buildings, how to make, the buildings more sustainable. We are already seeing a lot of electrification of mobility. EVs are coming in. In fact, we were just chatting, Mr. Bala was mentioning, already 1 lakh, EVs have crossed in a month. So we are already in that. So the urbanization, the fallout is on the buildings, on the mobility and things like that. I think this is something already we are seeing the right direction, things like that, happening. The second is really on the carbon neutrality. On the carbon neutrality, as a country, we have taken in the COP26 a goal that by 2070, that we need to, be carbon neutral. But as a country, who's a country? I mean, it's all of us, businesses, cities, the different stakeholders. I think it's important that is, like in our organizations, we have a goal setting. From the company's goals, it is, we are in MMA, so, we're talking about management practices. It has to percolate down to the last person in the organization. So it's important this carbon neutrality is, aligned with many sectors. Just to give you an example, you spoke about Sangoba, we call it Saint Gobain in Indian language. We have an objective that by 2050, we have to be carbon neutral. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's in France, Germany, India, China, US, wherever, you have to be carbon neutral. Now, you are not going to, on 2050, January 1st, you wake up and you suddenly become that. What we will be doing in the next 4 to 5 years in our business, our investments, the technology, that is going to determine whether we will achieve that objective in 2050. So it's important that each of us as stakeholders, whether it's businesses, industries, and very importantly, cities. I think the cities have to now states have to take steps in terms of what needs to be done on that. The right policy framework and enabling that. From that, maybe I will bring to the energy part of it and I'll stop. Because a lot of the, yes, sorry.
Oh, I was hoping you will, give your thoughts on the balance between development and the environment.
Yeah, I will. So I think the important part is India as a country is still poor. So you need development. There is no doubt on that. We are only less than $2,000 per capita. So we need more economic development, no doubt on that. Can we do that without disturbing the environment? It is very much possible. Because thanks to many countries which have done all the mistakes in the past, we can learn from that. I mean, today China is really tightening on the environment norms. Today, not 30 years back. Today their norms are much tighter than what it is in Europe or US. But China has made all the mistakes. We can learn from that. I think in the industries or in the mobility and many of these places, we can have very tight norms in terms of what we need to follow. And I'll just give you, again, I'm giving examples because it's nice to preach, but you should also practice. So let me tell you what we practice. We have our Sriperumbudur factory, and all of us know Chennai is a rain star. 9 months of our operations are run from rainwater collected from the roof. We don't take any water from the ground. We do that. We have got over 1 lakh of trees planted over there, which can help in terms of the air quality and things like that. You have enough roof in the factories. You put renewable solar modules to have renewable power. So there are things that we can do at home, and we should do that. Some of these will be a little costly to start with. So I think it's a question of what are and the good thing is today, again, since we are in MMA, I'm talking about ESG is widely spoken about. People talk about ESG as a big thing. Organizations, everyone, whether it's business or in the other social thing, you need to clearly define your purpose and link that to this environment and the sustainability part of it. Once that's done, I think everything is really possible.
Thanks. I'll come back to you about the energy. Yeah, Dr. Gopal Krishnan, I would like to talk to you next. we obviously need a lot of skilled people as we go forward to achieve our dreams, whatever they be, in technology, in manufacturing, in services. You come from a engineering college background. So what do you think we lack right now in terms of skilling? Are we doing the right things in skilling? And what do we need to do to take India forward in producing the right kind of engineers, architects, planners?
So thank you, sir, for the question. And before that, my thanks and compliments to the authors for this forward thinking, 2047. And there is a saying, give back to the society. Both Anbu sir and Pattabhi Ram sir are doing that. And compliments to both of them. And coming to the question, education, it's an industry and it is a knowledge-based industry. So because you put the question directly, we are not focusing on the skills because it's a kind of a pyramid. We have a school education. If you look at going for higher education, there will be a drop, huge drop. And after the higher education, people we are going for post-graduation and doctorate. This is in a pyramid what we have in our country. And there is another comparison. There are two kinds of jobs. In general, if you look at blue-collar job and white-collar job. So there is a huge competition for white-collar job rather than blue-collar job. You take engineering, compare it with the diploma. Whereas the diploma holders, they will get a placement easily. You take, if you ask sir, he will be, recruiting, happy to recruit diploma holders rather than engineers because their focus is more on skilling, more laboratory. So here, what we can do, there is a process called activity-based learning, learning by doing. So that need to be improved. Now this new education policy, National Education Policy 2020, it talks about more on this learning by doing. And there is also a chance for giving more importance for T type of learning. We call it as horizontal exposure and vertical expertise. That is missing now. Because I know, I 45 subjects in engineering. I get some 164 credits or 170 credits. Overall, I will be an engineer. But if you look at, Lakshmi sir often used to say, because technology disruption, because if you ask about it and people will not be able to talk about one specific subject in detail. That's what the deep dive is missing. So if you wanted to have a deep diving, we should give them some room. It's not about blaming. We should give them some huge room on it, and we also have to act as a mentor because now the faculty role, particularly during the COVID, totally it has changed. The faculty ourselves, we have realized that, and we used to tell all the faculty, the role of the faculty is totally different last 2 years. In future also it would be totally different. So overall, if you look at the education, the transformation is highly needed because it's all about imagineering. Because now the technology, now we talk about IoT, later it is Internet of Everything, now it is AIoT. So it goes like that. For that, whether the education institutions or the content is available. The content is available. To handle that content, first of all, the faculty members should be enabled. And for that, we need a lot of support from the industry. If you look at countries like US and other developed countries, the education industries governed by the industries, Stanford and all these, Silicon Valley, everywhere, there the education always supported by the industries. Moving on, earlier we used to have the training and the placement. That was the buzzword everywhere. Even now we talk about dream package and super dream offer and all these things. On the top of, before going for all these things, do we have a skilling officer? We have a skilling persons. So that is again missing. So it's not about the colleges only in the colleges and the schools only in the urban. I'm representing the rural also because there we have huge potential and a lot of students are not able to meet the expectations of industry. Very specifically core industry because IT overall, yes, we will be able to make it up. But if you look at core industries, if you take the count now, how many got placed in rural colleges and urban colleges, you will be able to find out the difference. And another thing here I wanted to highlight is, I was mentioning about learning by doing. activity-based learning and project-based learning. Here again, we have to emphasize one more thing. As instead of this training and placement, now again the government of India and even the government of Tamil Nadu also emphasizing the entrepreneurs. Because again, a lot of forums we are talking about, but to become an entrepreneur, just money is, it not only that is a factor. More than that, the student he or she should be highly skilled. So for that, a lot of incubations also coming up. So more than making them employable, we are also looking for making them as an employer. For that, again, the skill-based education is highly mandatory. So this street type model learning is very it is highly needed at this time. And because after we are not talking about 2047, even after 5 years, you may not be knowing what is the changes going to happen in the overall industry. Because SpaceX and Hyperloop, all these going to come up. So are we incorporating all these things? You talk about urbanization and the planning and all these things. And are we having it in our curriculum or syllabi? So that need to be think about. And now we are working on it. And for this one submission to the government and everyone, more number of autonomous institutions should come. So that will make some difference. Thank you.
Nice. I'll come back to you on your syllabus point. And Mr. Lakshmi Narayan wanted to be the last in the line, but he's going to be making his presentation on the most important point of technology. The greatest disruptor is technology, and that's also the foundation of everything as we go forward. Now, are we as a country, technology is often confused in this country with just information technology, software, but there are so many more dimensions to technology, and are we investing enough in research and development in this country, in our institutions of science, institutions of technology, in our scientists? We find that most of our scientists fly abroad and they do better than what they would do in India. I mean, what do we need to set right to ensure that we become a hub of research and development and advancement in technology?
Yeah, thank you, Raghuveer, and congratulations to the authors and to the young minds who have dreamt and prepared this book. As a believer in technology, there are a few points that I would like to make. First of all, with due respects to Raghuveer, contradict some of the things that he said. He said, who would have thought of ABC, who would have thought of? I can think of many of the people in the past who have thought about things that are making a difference now. Starting from, the most fundamental things like our Satyendranath Bose, S.N. Bose, a famous scientist, he talked about bosons, the fundamental particle that makes matter. And it wasn't discovered. He theorized it. It was proven only a few years back through experimentation. Likewise, Einstein dreamt of this gravitational waves. That has been proven. And there is this person, Alan Turing, in the 1950s, talked about artificial intelligence, and they evolved a test called the Turing test, which says artificial intelligence would have arrived when you cannot make a difference between a person and a computer in logical, rational thinking, not emotional thinking. If you interact with two, you're blindfolded and you interact with two units, one is a computer, another is a person. If you're not able to make a difference, then AI has arrived. This was formulated in 1950 when computers were not popular at all. And it is expected that by 2029 or 2030, the Turing test will be proved. Likewise, there are so many examples. Homi Bhabha in our country talked about the 3-stage nuclear program. Based uranium. Ours is a closed cycle. We don't generate nuclear fast because everything goes back. And the 3rd stage is thorium-based nuclear power. Now that is underway. The fuel has been formulated. It's undergoing tests. So there are many people who have made those type of predictions with good knowledge, not really dreamt, but they had some fundamental knowledge and they had done research, which is coming through genetics. People said after breaking the genes code, they said it is good. It's going to take decades to do the entire human genome sequencing. Now it's done. And people in 2002 predicted that brain mapping is something that's going to be very, very difficult. Which part of the brain contributes to what kind of emotion, what kind of memory, what kind of intelligence. Now, in the next 4 or 5 years, we'll have an entire map of the brain. So much so that it is possible to replicate a human brain or simulate a human brain on a computer. And, as a individuals, we have heard of digital twins. You have a machine whose digital twin is evolved. It started from General Electric, where aircraft engines, as they run, they put devices and keep monitoring it so that digitally they know when the maintenance is required, how well it's performing, etc. Now, very soon, we will have digital twins for individuals like us. Our personal identity will be in the digital form, which we can keep it under lock and key, because there's so much of information that we are using, that we are leaving in the net. So the challenge is not that the digital twin for human beings. I mean, what's the purpose of having a digital twin? Based on all your habits, let's say, for example, you regularly buy a particular type of product or a toothpaste every 20 days. In future, you don't have to order it. It'll automatically, your digital twin will take care of that, and those supplies will come. That's what the digital twin is supposed to be. But then the challenge is, for every such advance, there will be what's called a deep fake. There is someone else who's trying to figure out, how do I crack someone else's physical identity and the digital identity and things like that. So if you look at all these predictions that have been made in the past, many of them have come true. People are still dreaming, and the fundamental reason and the fundamental contributor to this is technology. It is computing technology. It's the chips, the semiconductors, the memory, what started as small items, is contributing to the future. So where is this headed? 2047, what kind of a world can you imagine? A lot of people can imagine. It's generally said that people who have crossed the age of 50, 60, you refer to this generation, they have so much of this, the status quo, the current learning, the current baggage, that they're not able to visualize the future as well as some other younger minds. Many of the new creations, like the blockchain that people talk about and the cryptocurrency, are all things that were created by people under 35. They are the ones who created because they have nothing to lose, they are fearless, they don't carry any baggage, etc., etc. Now, if you look into the future, there are several things that they talked about. Just leave 2 or 3 points. One talked about education. Education is it's always been a self-learning activity. It has to be a self-learning activity. They always say, the purpose of an educational system is to shift the burden of education to the individual. They have to take ownership, responsibility, and learn. And that's coming with all this digital learning. That's something that is happening in the field of self-learning, in the areas of critical thinking. There's so many changes that are happening thanks to computing devices and the computing power that is at the hands of people and the communication devices that are there. Nobody would have imagined about the map, the Google Maps, Earth Google. You can zoom in on any particular place, and now in India, the Street View is also available. Imagine a world where there is sufficient bandwidth that's available. At any point of time, sitting at home, you want to see what is happening precisely at that moment on Anna flyover, you'll be able to do that. There are already something like 6,000 satellites in space. That number is expected to get to something like 1 million in the next 20 years. So much so, there are companies that are worrying about how do I avoid collision of satellites, etc., etc. That kind of a thing is going to come.
There'll be a traffic jam there.
There'll be a traffic jam. But imagine, before satellites, the US is preparing for something like 5 million drones that are operating in the space in 2027, 28. All these various kinds of drones, emergency drones, firefighting drones, ambulance drones. And if you want to manage the traffic, there is a system that's been evolved by NASA that will give priority to an ambulance zone and then clear the way for all the other zones, things like that. So to dream in this situation is something that is can be very easily realized. And are we in a good place? We in India, I'm quite certain we are in a very good place. Just 2 or 3 data points. I think there is something that I sent to Raghuvir today. We are no longer a poor country. People refer to us as a poor country. It's not. Based on the study that has been published by UNDP, they said they looked at it in 10 different parameters, not just the basic things. They looked at nutrition, school-going years, child mortality, sanitation, cooking fuel, which adds to climate change, etc., etc. 10 parameters. And they've said from 2005 to 2015, 415 million people have come out of poverty. Their clear definition of what that poverty is, that's universally applicable across the globe. This is a report that they published for all the countries in the world. So the largest number of people have been elevated out of poverty in the last 15 years, and there are only about 200 odd people to be lifted out of poverty. And if you go by this speed, it won't take more than 5 years at best to have them also come out. Now, if you imagine a future where the climate change people might say, oh, the future is going to be we are like this and it's going to come down because we don't know what's going to happen, floods will eradicate. But the future is, the singularitarians or technologists always believe that it is going to be better and faster. Why? Because they say, look at Moore's law. Computing power is going up so dramatically. We have experienced that in the last so many years. Artificial intelligence. Algorithms that people develop are doubling. The number of algorithms are doubling every 3.4 months now. That's going to take place rapidly. Population coming out of poverty. It took 70 years to reach the halfway mark, 15 years for the remaining quarter, another 5 years. So everything is going not at a linear speed, but at a geometric or an exponential rate. Given that kind of a thing, we should all be very, very optimistic that the future is going to be fantastic. And where is the future? Which is the high growth industries? Like Raghuvir said, where the R&D investment is the highest. Research and development, where it attracts the best brains. Renewable energy. And if you can find a way of storing energy for long periods of time, we have cracked the climate change problem. And it is possible. There are people who are using ice batteries that store energy that can be used. So renewable energy is one area. I talk about space and aviation, computing, healthcare. So there are areas where a lot of research dollars are going. That's the area that's going to get us into the future. And for those young people, there is one Ray Kurzweil, who is a futurist, who talks about immortality. He says, if I am able to, this is very interesting. If I am able to gain 1 year of my life by following all the practices, the good practices, like exercise, diet, etc., etc. If I gain 1 year of my life, every year, I attain immortality. And that's something that is doing. And people who work on this brain research and the computers, they say, I'll end with this. It's a common joke that is often said. People say, the brain is a wonderful thing. It starts working from the moment you get up in the morning and doesn't stop until you reach the office. That's this. But now in future they say, let it work. But when you come to the office, we don't want your brain to work. We have other people to take care of that computer. Thank you.
Very nice to hear those thoughts, Mr. Lakshman. I'll come back to you with a second question later. Mr. Srinivasan, you were talking about the unbanked, the financially excluded. Don't we have microfinance companies that are doing this job pretty well?
No, given the size of the country and the underserved population in terms of credit, the number of microfinance entities are very, very less. And there are microfinance institutions and microfinance institutions, if you know what I mean. There are well-run companies which have been able to penetrate and make inroads. There are also those who have not been able to do that. And many microfinance institutions today, since the NBFCs and microfinance institutions, all of them come under the RBI norms broadly. The microfinance institutions which are doing gold loans and also some kind of trade finance also get into the category of, so what to say, that is, they are not strictly microfinance, but they are also catering to the needs of the lower income groups or slightly middle class groups. Okay. So, considering the population, the penetration that has to be achieved is really big. So and money lenders are charging 120% from these traders. Correct. See, this is the point. When formal credit is denied, the money lenders have a hold on all these people.
So the takeaway is that we need a sharp focus from policymakers to bridge this gap and get formal credit to the lowest in the pyramid.
Man who can get credit at reasonable rates of interest from the bank. In fact, something relevant strikes me. We all saw the film Ponniyin Selvan recently. And Rajaraja Cholan, 1,000 years back, when he was ruling, they had a system where the poorest of the poor man would get access to credit through a system at very less interest rates because they wanted to preserve the dignity of the man and give him credit at very less rates. All of us know water management was at its peak at that time. So 1,000 years of glory and civilization, and when we go back, we can imagine an India that was so great.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah. And one point I want to add, we all talk about technology, advancement in education, etc., etc. But I would also think that by 2047, are we going to be a happy people? So happiness index with 130 crore of people, happiness index is extremely important. Is India going to be a happy country with happy people? That I leave it to you.
Yeah, Mr. Unikrishnan, talking about energy, the last few years has been very interesting in terms of newer sources of energy being developed and on a mass scale, like hydrogen, green hydrogen. There's a lot of money being put into that. We are looking at solar. We are expanding big time there. Of course, wind power has been there for many years now. Do you really see these renewable sources replacing fossil fuel anytime in the future? Is that going to happen? A. And what do you have to say about the hypocrisy that we are witnessing in the West? We always knew the hypocrisy was there, but the proof is coming out now. When you're in crisis, you throw away your climate goals, your so-called commitment to environment, and you go back to the sources of power and energy that you yourself classified as negative. I mean, you only have to look at Europe, the way they're going now. Shuttered nuclear plants are being reopened, coal-fired plants are being pushed big time, and all because gas is not available. Now, this in a way shows the predicament that we are going to face as we move forward. What are your thoughts on this?
So maybe I'll answer the second one first and then come to the larger one on the renewable and from India's perspective. See, countries are, after all, like a replica of the human beings. We behave differently when we are in a comfortable situation, and we behave very differently when we are under stress. I mean, there are psychological tests which are performed, especially when you join an organization. They look at you, how good you are under different situations. So, countries are not very different. I'll just give you one example of a few years back, myself and family, we went to Disneyland Paris. And normally you expect, in the Western world, people follow rules and, they'll wait, they'll stand in queue and they will give you, first, please go ahead and things like that. That's what happens. Evening, it started to pour. It started to pour very heavily, lightning and real thunder showers. And one bus comes in, I can tell you, the behavior in our MTC bus will be much better than what we witnessed over there. Okay? We were pushed aside because we wanted to behave better. because we know how normally it happens here. So we wanted to be, behave slightly better, and we waited. Finally, we ended up in 3 different parts of the bus. So I'm saying the human tendency is like that. Now, I think what we need to really look at is, many of us believe in astrology, the stars have to align. For India, I think the stars are aligned on many things at this point in time, especially on the energy. I'll tell you why. One, we have a lot of sun. So, as you rightly said, we have been harvesting wind, but we were never harvesting solar energy. I mean, the overall installed capacity in India is less than 50 gigawatts. It's nothing. It's nothing compared to, and our objective is 300 gigawatts by 2030. So, one, we have enough of sun. Second, I think this industry has caught the imagination of different stakeholders, starting from the government to investors to everybody. And thanks to certain right investments and the policies, the market has discovered a good price level now. Today, a viable solar renewable power can be obtained under 4 rupees, with everybody making whatever margins they have to make. I am telling you today, is it a dream? No. By 2026, 100% of our electricity use in our manufacturing, which runs into many megawatts, will be renewable. We are already in that path. We have already reached maybe 35-40%, and we are 100%.
Is it possible for us to reach
Yes,
there?
so I'm coming to that. So as a country, it's very much possible, and it's also a necessity for us. You take the parallel from the telephone, what happened? We had the land phones. It was very difficult for you to reach every part of the country. And the moment mobile phone came, it was much easier for you to reach every part of the country. We have the same situation also on energy. Today, it's not very easy for you to distribute into every part of the country. And thanks to renewable, it can be more closer to the source, number one. Number two, I think on the hydrogen, I think it's an important step that as a country we have taken. We have identified, energy, we have 3 issues. One is the affordability, second is the security, and third is the economic impact. Today, around 6 lakh crores is what as a country we spend on importing energy from somewhere. 6 lakh crores. Okay? It's not a small amount. So how do we overcome that? I think this hydrogen policy and therefore the steps being taken on that, I think it's in the right direction. Big businesses are investing huge amount of money on R&D in terms of investment, in terms of development. One challenge with hydrogen is really in terms of, it's not very easy to transport. Okay, it's very difficult to transport because of the nature of, how explosive it is and things like that. But that's an opportunity as well. So you can actually have that closer to where the consumption is. Today we are working on converting some of our manufacturing plants to use hydrogen. It requires a few decades of work. It's not easy. You need to, redesign your factories, refractories, and so many other things. But people are moving in that direction. So I'm very optimistic that by 2047, for sure, I think we would be largely independent in terms of the energy security point of view. And it can really help in terms of our economic development. And coming back to your question, which I did not fully answer on the development part of it, it can really help from that point of view, because then you are not really using fossil fuels and you're not harming the environment from that point of view, and in a way also help India to be competitive in manufacturing.
Thank you. That's very illuminating. Dr. Gopalakrishnan, very quickly, you spoke about syllabus and how it's not keeping up. The other aspect that I also want to talk to you about is industry academia interface, which is very poor in India. You look at university in the US, the linkages with industry are very strong both ways. It's a relationship that is mutually beneficial. Whereas in India, we don't see that happening. Is that a reason why we are turning out graduates who are unemployable and who need further training? Companies need to invest in further training. How do we change this?
Thank you for the question. And in fact, we are practicing it because, again, I want to refer Lakshmi sir, because last 10 years he was addressing that, because all the points I learned from him, and we implemented at our institution, industry and institute. Because earlier we were talking about employability. Now it is not about employability, it is about deployable. On the day one, he should start his work. That's what. To make them ready, yes, we need a lot of inputs towards industry things. So for that, the faculty should be, go to the industry because we call it as a sabbaticals. It may be a week time or month time or 6 months time. So we have a scheme called one faculty, one industry. So in a 6 months in the semester, the faculty should have should have kind of connections with the industry because we have more than 25,000 alumni working in different industry. So it is simple, no, not that they have to go to the different industry where they find out new people. So we have great connect, and during this kind of events, they can network. So thing is, one faculty, one industry, they have to connect with the industry for the particular subject, what it is happening in the industry. I'll just take a quick example. See here we have a huge number of slides and all these things. To design that, we need a dialect software. Nowhere in our subject, we are not teaching dialects. We are talking about only the lux level. For an auditorium, what is the lux level? For a parking, what is the lux level? We are not talking about it. We are just saying the definition of lux, that's it. So this is what now we are doing, one faculty, one industry. In the second one, internship is mandatory. Now as per AICTE, we made it as internship is mandatory, 6 to 8 weeks. We are also giving credits to the students. So 3 credits, it will be given as an extra credit. So during that time, so again, in a year or a semester, students should have at least 40 hours of industrial relevance. They should be with the industry. So that 2 things, it is very, very easy for them. One is they know what is happening in the industry and they will prepare themselves for the industry thing. And the third one, which I wanted to highlight specifically to the industry readiness, bringing out the industry culture to the institution. So setting up some of the center of excellences and having even, you were asking me, do you have any faculty working in the industry? So we can go with adjoint faculty or people already worked and they got retired or whatever may be the thing. You can have them in the boards. We have them in the boards, board of studies and everything is there. But making them to interact with the students, it is missing. So now that is also we are practicing. And finally, there is another thing. Earlier we were talking about interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. Now it is going for a transdisciplinary. And if you have that, if you need to have focus on transdisciplinary, you should have the flavor of industry in the institution. For that, the faculty should be highly connected with the industry, and these collaborations should happen. Otherwise, it's very difficult. But it is happening now. A lot of MMA doing it very reasonably, and ICT Academy, CIA, FICCI, NASCAM. So through those avenues, we will be able to meet the industry leaders, and we are also going to local industries. It is not that we have to go to Hosur or different industries. In each and every city, we have industries. So always, I used to tell our faculty members and the students, the science and technology should solve the societal problems. Society, industry also one of the part of the society. Excellent. This is what my submission. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Thanks. The last word to you, Mr. Lakshminarayan. Technology is often feared that it will lead to displacement of jobs. Will it create more jobs or will it destroy more jobs? Especially with artificial intelligence and the kind of advancement we have in that sphere. What are your thoughts?
No, it's not going to, it may destroy jobs, but it will create new jobs. In the last 25 years, the formal employment in the country has not reduced at all. If anything, it has increased and the unemployment has come down. Both due to the growth in the new opportunities, as well as in terms of informal sectors moving to formal sector, etc. So that the myth that automation will increase unemployment, that's long forgotten. Nobody, even the trade unions, don't make that argument anymore. That's not something that is, that's kind of given up. But the demand for skill, if today nobody views the technology skills as what's available in my country, my neighborhood, etc. It's become global because open innovation, if you innovate something today, anywhere in the world, that's available to the rest of the world at that same moment for them to exploit. So that's the level of collaboration that's happening. And one of the biggest reasons that they say why so many people billions of people have come out of poverty globally is because of globalization, which means very free flow of capital, free flow of ideas, free flow of people, etc. Free trade and entrepreneurship. As long as we have these three, I don't think we need to worry about employment at all.
Great. Thank you so much, all the distinguished panel members. And I'm afraid we don't have time for more questions. We're already running behind schedule. So I hope you all enjoyed listening to the distinguished speakers. Thank you.
That was a power-packed panel discussion, starting from the wish list, insisting on the dreams turned reality. Those were once considered to be hypothetical, thereby driving a message that nothing is impossible. Paradigm shift of importance to the small sector, insisting that small is no longer small. They contribute to the large percentage of employment and GDP, providing easy access to the source of funds. Acknowledging the fact that we are poor, development should happen embracing the environment. Skill development is the need of the hour, giving the right expertise and exposure to tap the best from the demographic dividend. Predictions with knowledge base has always come true in the past. Shifting the burden of educating to the student himself and herself will bring in better learning. And India is growing exponentially. Visualizing a better India, we are in a better place, and we only wish that we are able to cherish and enjoy the joy of the growth better than our digital twin. Thank you very much for the power-packed panel discussion. May we now request Mr. Lakshminarayanan to present a memento to Ms. Akila Srinivasan. May we also request Mr. Lakshminarayanan to present a memento to Mr. Dr. R. Gopalakrishnan. A memento to be presented to Mr. Raghuvi Srinivasan, the moderator of this panel discussion. Thank you, sir. May we now request Mr. Oni Krishnan to present a memento to our institutional partner of India in 2047, the KSR College of Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. Over to Dr. Anbuthambi Bhojarajan, author, head, strategy and partnerships, L&T Edutech, for the felicitations.
So I would request the panelists to just stay in the dais for 2 minutes. This entire initiative is backed by mentorship of senior leaders across India. And we have leaders from multiple domains already. You know, Mr. Lakshmi, Mr. Raghuveer, Mr. Unni, all are here who are part of this book as mentors. As a token of recognition, we do have other mentors who have joined online through Zoom. They are witnessing the event. So I would request Mr. Lakshmi to honor and thank Ms. Sangeeta Sumesh to come on stage for being a mentor to receive a memento from Mr. Lakshmi. And I call upon. So Ms. Sangeeta Sumesh has been very kind enough to mentor one of the chapters for us. I would call upon Mr. Gurumurthy, our other mentor from Juniper Systems, Bangalore. He is mentored on the cybersecurity area. Big round of applause to Mr. Gurumurthy who supported us. The foreword of this book was written by Dr. Devi Shetty. The first word was written by Mr. Sridhar Vembu. Both of them have conveyed their wishes and they were not able to be present here. So we have Mr. Charles Godwin, head HR of Zoho. So he will receive a book from Mr. Lakshmi and he will reach it to our Mr. Sridhar Vembu. I would request Mr. Lakshmi to give a copy of the book to Mr. Charles Godwin, who will receive it on behalf of Mr. Sridhar Vembu. So this entire initiative has been driven by the young writers from across India, as we already told. So I would now request, as the last event of this day, to honor and recognize all the writers of today. So I'll be handing over this sheet to Madam, and we have 32 writers, out of which almost 20 people are here. I wish them to be honored here. I would call upon Ms. Arpita Mettu from Hyderabad to come on stage to receive a memento. Come. Along with the book copy. Yeah. So then I'll call upon Asha Singh Gaur from Mumbai. I would request Mr. Lakshmi to give it to Arpita Mettu. Now I'll request Asha Singh Gaur to come on stage to receive it from Mr. Lakshmi. Then I'll request Dr. Deepanita Chakrabarti from Coimbatore College. She's here. She will receive a memento from Lakshmi. So then I'll be Deepanita. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I'll request Madam Akila Srinivasan to come and honor some of the writers. Now I'll call Dr. Archana Shetty from Bangalore, who is the writer of a chapter. Please come on stage, Dr. Archana Shetty. She has played a role in the healthcare chapters. I'll be calling upon Evangeline, who is one of the writers from Chennai, post Archana Shetty. So then we will be having Janani Rajashekha from Bangalore. She will be present to receive it from Akila. So I call upon Jatin from Chennai. Jatin from Chennai. Yeah. And I'll call Jayanti Raghunathan from Chennai. Jayanti Raghunathan. Yeah, Jatin is here. Jatin is here. So I think Jayanti is. Okay, so the Jayanti herself is the writer. She is helping us as a volunteer. I think give a big round of applause to Jayanti. She said she will help in volunteering. So okay, Kartika from Coimbatore. Kartika is with us. Come on stage. Ma'am, thank you very much, ma'am. I will request Mr. Vinnikishnan to come forward and give away to a few of the writers. So, K. Kartika from Coimbatore. We have Ms. Kavita Rao from Dubai who has come here to receive. I would request Kavita Rao to come on stage. We have our ring writer, Mr. Manoj Kuryan George from Palakkad, who will come after Kavita Rao. After Manoj Kuryan, I will call upon Mini Pallat from Ernakulam to come on stage. So I will call upon Ovia or from Chennai. She is a CA, works out of Sogo. She is here. She has played a role in finance. Ovia? Yes. Fast. So Ovia, and then I will call upon Mr. R. Sudarshan from Chennai to come on stage. He is one of the senior member, R. Sudarshan. Mr. Sudarshan? Yeah. So I will be calling upon Raja Golapodi from Andhra Pradesh, who is here. Sudarshan is here. Okay. Sorry, some kind. Sudarshan. Okay. Sudarshan? Okay. That's okay, sir. We'll get it again. Raja? Raja, yeah. Sudarshan? Yes, he's here. Can you just please come and collect? So after Raja, I will call upon Ranjan Kumar Sahu from Hyderabad to come on stage. We have Dr. S. Pumagal from Coimbatore. Come on stage to receive a memento from Mr. Vinnikishnan. Sandhya Marwadu from Singapore is here. A big round of applause to Ms. Sandhya. Will come on stage to receive a memento. So I will request all the writers to be here for one group photograph with the dignitaries. So we have Subhashree Pingali and we have Mr. Yunus with us. I would request Mr. Yunus to come on stage after Subhashree. Sandhya, yeah. Yunus. Thank you. So it will be an honor to have all the writers together on the stage. Please come on stage with your this thing. And may I request, though as a appreciation, I would request Mr. Bhojarajan sir to come on stage to have one group picture with all our writers. You are an inspiration to many of us in the corporate world. We wish you to come on stage. All the writers quickly come on stage, please. I would request group captain also to join. Madam, Akila madam, it will be great if you can also be on stage along with all the writers. Please come here. Yeah. Yes, one group photograph with all our writers. Only sir, one group photograph with all the writers together. Yeah. Go, stand in a line, no? So can you organize yourself quickly? All of it together. Maybe some of you can stand down so that we can take a, some of you can stand down also. I would request Pattabhi sir also to join them. I would request Subhashini to come join them. You are one of the contributor, please come there. I would request both Pattabhi sir, group captain sir, you should also come and join this group for one photograph. Please come, join us. Thank you, Subhashini, for a formal vote of thanks. Quickly.
Here's a thank you to all the contributors, designers, printers, and all the entire team whose contribution went on to making the dream of this book launch a reality.